Ever feel like walking into a nightclub is um, kind of like stepping into the unknown?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
you're kind of fumbling around in the
Yeah.
dark,
Yeah.
lights are flashing, music's pumping,
Mm-hmm.
people everywhere.
Yeah.
But how do you actually navigate that social scene? I mean, where do you even begin?
Right.
Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today, the world of nightclub dynamics.
Nice.
And to guide us, we're tapping into the insights of Brad P.
Mm.
He's like this expert who sees this whole scene
Okay.
as a strategic game, almost.
Interesting. So, like, there are rules, there are players.
Exactly. And he breaks down this whole scene into this kind of social hierarchy.
Okay.
So it's not just a random mass of people.
Right.
You've got the owner at the top, who's obviously more concerned with the business side of things.
Yeah, makes sense.
Then you've got these various levels of promoters, and then finally what he calls the general population, the people who are just there to have a good time.
Gotcha. So, like, where do you even begin if you're new to this game?
Well, that's where things get really interesting. Brad P. points to a group he calls small-time promoters as being surprisingly important.
It is small-time promoters, huh?
Yeah, they're not the owners or anything,
Right.
but they're the ones who are really incentivized to get people in and having fun.
Oh, I see.
Think of them as like the social connectors in the club.
Like the welcoming committee almost.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Their job often depends on how well they can create a lively atmosphere.
Makes sense.
They're usually the ones with the drink tickets, the VIP tables,
Yeah.
and they've got those outgoing personalities that make their group seem really appealing.
So you're saying if you want to kind of get into the flow of things,
Uh-huh.
these small-time promoters are the ones to look out for.
Absolutely. They're a great starting point.
Okay, cool. Now, what about the bar staff?
Oh, that's another interesting point Brad P. brings up.
Yeah.
He says that bartenders and bouncers, they might not be the social linchpins you'd expect.
Wait, really? I always thought, like, being in good with the bartender was a total power move.
I know, right?
Get the free drinks, maybe some extra attention.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Brad P. argues they're often too focused on their jobs to really influence your social standing.
Oh.
Plus, getting a free drink doesn't necessarily translate to making genuine connections.
Right. It's not really about that. So if it's not the bar staff,
Yeah.
who should we be looking to connect with?
Well, this is where the high status guy comes in.
High status guy. Okay.
Brad P. describes these individuals as having this certain magnetism that just
Oh.
draws people to them. It
Mhm.
could be their looks, their confidence,
Yeah.
their connections.
I see.
There's just something about them that elevates their social value in the club.
Ah, social value.
Yeah, it's like they've got this high score in the game of the nightclub.
Right. So by being around them, you kind of raise your own social value.
Exactly. It's like leveling up at a video game just by being in their orbit.
Interesting. But you can't just, like, fake it, right?
That's a really important point.
Yeah.
Brad P. is very clear that authenticity is key.
Yeah.
You can't just pretend to be confident or socially savvy.
Right.
People can sense that a mile away.
Totally.
So it's not just about looking the part, it's about actually being the part.
Yeah, you got to bring something genuine to the table. What about, like, the women? How do they navigate all of this?
Okay, this is where it gets really fascinating.
Okay.
Brad P. talks about how women often form what he calls girl teams.
Girl teams.
These are like groups that support each other and help boost their collective social value.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's like a mini society within the club.
So it's like a strategic alliance almost.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And within these groups, he observed this behavior he calls state regulation.
State regulation.
Yeah. It's like these women are actively managing their mood throughout the night,
Oh, wow.
making sure they stay in a positive and energized state.
Oh, wow. So they're not just passively, like, going with the flow.
Exactly. They're shaping their own experience.
Yeah.
If their state starts to dip, they might suggest dancing, moving to a different spot, or even leaving the club entirely.
Interesting. So it's not that they're, being fickle or anything. It's
Right.
more like they're actively seeking out experiences that maintain that high energy.
Exactly. It's all about keeping that positive momentum going.
Right. But, like, how do we as individuals actually connect with others in all of this?
Well, Brad P. has some really good advice for that.
Okay.
He emphasizes the importance of building commonalities when you meet new people.
Commonalities.
Yeah, it's about finding those shared interests, experiences, or even just a similar sense of humor.
So it's like looking for that initial spark of connection, something that resonates with them on a personal level.
Exactly. And that's where active listening comes in.
Active listening,
A
yeah.
genuine curiosity about the other person. It's
Yeah.
not about trying to like dazzle them with your witty one-liners or anything.
Right.
It's more about actually creating a space for genuine connection.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
about asking those open-ended questions, paying attention to what they're saying,
Mm.
and then finding ways to actually relate to their experiences. You know, people love to talk about themselves.
Yeah.
So showing that you're genuinely interested, that's a fantastic way to build rapport.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But, with all these different players, all these different social circles,
Yeah,
it can be really overwhelming.
it can.
So how do we approach these different circles strategically?
Well, Brad P. has this one piece of advice that I found really interesting.
Okay.
He says, always enter social circles from the top. Never try to enter from the bottom and work your way up.
Whoa. Okay. So no trying to befriend the wallflowers first and then like
Right.
work your way up.
No. He's saying if you start at the bottom,
Yeah.
you're likely to stay there. So he suggests find the key players, the leaders,
Yeah.
the influencers,
Right.
and focus your energy on connecting with them.
Okay. So it's about aligning yourself with those who already have that social capital.
Yeah.
But isn't that a bit, I don't know, calculated?
It might sound that way.
Yeah.
But remember, we're just talking about understanding the dynamics at play here.
Right.
It's not about manipulating anyone. It's about recognizing that different individuals,
Yeah.
they have different levels of influence
Wow.
within this whole social ecosystem of the club.
Okay. Yeah. I'm starting to see the logic here. So if we're playing this like social chess game,
Yeah.
what are some of the other pieces we need to be aware of?
Well, Brad P. really emphasizes this idea of understanding people's motives.
Okay.
He says, and this is a direct quote,
Oh, okay.
most people in clubs are there for either money, drugs, sex, booze, or social competition.
Wow. Okay. He doesn't hold back.
No, he doesn't.
But I guess it's true. Everyone's got an agenda, even if it's just to have a good time.
Exactly. And when you understand those agendas,
Mm.
you can actually decode their behavior
Right.
and interact with them more effectively.
That makes sense. So, for instance, if someone's clearly focused on social climbing,
Yeah.
they might not be all that interested in having a deep conversation about philosophy.
Exactly. Like you're speaking different languages almost.
Yeah.
You're not on the same wavelength. You know the connection's not going to happen.
It's just not going to click.
Exactly.
So it's about understanding the game
Yeah.
without judging the players.
Right. You know, Brad P. actually cautions against being disrespectful towards other people's, agendas and ambitions.
Oh, okay.
He says, use your brain and my system to create value for yourself and everyone else.
I like that.
Yeah.
So what about like those girl teams we were talking about earlier? How do they fit into all this?
Well, remember how we talked about state regulation?
Mhm.
It's all about maintaining that positive, energized mood.
Right.
So if a woman or her group, feels their state starting to drop,
Yeah.
they might suggest moving to a different area,
Color.
dancing more, or
Okay.
even just leaving the club entirely.
Right. So they're kind of like the DJs of their own emotional experience.
Exactly.
Exactly all the perfect night out.
Yeah. And understanding that can actually be really helpful when you're interacting with women in clubs.
Okay.
It's not about trying to force a connection or anything. It's more about just recognizing that they're actively shaping their experience
Mm-hmm.
and finding ways to kind of contribute to that positive energy.
Okay. So how do we fit into that?
Well, remember what we were talking about before about building commonalities?
Yeah.
That's really key here.
Okay.
When you approach a woman or a group of women,
Mm-hmm.
try to find those shared interests,
Yeah.
experiences,
Uh-huh.
even just a similar sense of humor,
It's about finding that spark, something that resonates with them on
Exactly.
a personal level.
And that's where those active listening skills really come in handy.
Yeah.
Ask those open-ended questions, really pay attention to their responses,
Mhm.
and then find ways to relate to what they're saying.
Right. And people love to talk about themselves. So showing that genuine interest can go a long way. It's almost like we're unlocking a secret code here,
Yeah,
one conversation at a time.
it kind of is like that.
And as you become more attuned to these social cues,
Yeah.
you start to see how these principles we're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
they don't just apply to nightclubs.
Right.
They apply to all sorts of social settings.
Exactly. It's about, like, the bigger picture.
It is.
It's not just about, picking up someone.
Right.
It's about developing this deeper understanding of how social dynamics actually work.
It's like social intelligence.
Exactly.
It's like we're learning a whole new language, like the language of social intelligence.
Exactly. And just like any language, the more you practice, the more fluent you become.
Right.
And that fluency,
Yeah.
that can really open up a world of possibilities.
So this is about more than just like having a fun night out.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
We can actually use this in our everyday lives.
For sure. Think about Brad P's advice, about entering social circles from the top. That principle. You can apply that to, like, your workplace, the gym,
Oh, okay.
even family gatherings,
Interesting.
It's about identifying those people who have that influence, the respect within those different environments,
Right.
and then finding ways to connect with them authentically.
Okay, so it's about recognizing those like unspoken hierarchies
Yeah,
that exist everywhere.
they do.
But once we've made those connections,
Yeah.
how do we actually nurture them?
Well, it goes back to that idea of building commonalities.
Okay.
It's key in any relationship, really, finding those shared interests, those experiences,
Yeah.
showing genuine curiosity about the other person.
Right.
Those are the building blocks of real connection.
So we really need to be paying attention to our surroundings and the people in them.
Exactly. Pay attention to those dynamics.
Yeah.
The unspoken rules, the hierarchies.
Right.
Observe how people are interacting. What's motivating them? How are they contributing to the group?
It's like we're all kind of participating in this
Yeah.
intricate social dance,
We are.
whether we realize it or not.
And the more aware you become of the steps,
Yeah.
the more confidently, the more gracefully you can move through it.
That's a great way to put it.
It's like, understanding the music and finding your own rhythm within that larger group.
This deep dive has been like seriously eye-opening. I feel like I have this like whole new set of tools now
Yeah.
for understanding and navigating, social situations.
That's the whole point.
It is.
These deep dives,
Yeah.
they're all about giving you the knowledge, the insight
Right.
to create more meaningful connections,
Yeah.
to help you thrive out there in your social world.
Oh, before we wrap up,
Yeah.
I have one more question.
Okay.
Brad P. talks a lot about this whole social value thing.
He does.
How do we actually cultivate that authentically? Like, it can't just be about, trying to impress people.
You're absolutely right. True social value.
Yeah.
It's not something you can fake.
Right.
It comes from a place of confidence,
Yeah.
authenticity, and genuine contribution.
Okay, so it's about being comfortable with yourself,
Yes.
pursuing what you're passionate about,
Exactly.
and adding value to other people's lives.
Precisely. And as you cultivate those qualities, you'll notice that your interactions,
Yeah.
they become more effortless, more rewarding.
Cool.
It's like you're speaking this universal language of authenticity
I love that.
that goes beyond any specific setting.
I feel like I've leveled up my social intelligence just from this conversation.
That's the power of knowledge. And remember,
Yeah.
this is just the beginning.
Right.
There's always more to learn
Oh,
when it comes to social dynamics,
Yeah.
human behavior, the art of connection.
So, to our listener,
Yes.
we encourage you, take these insights from Brad P.
Mm-hmm.
and observe your own social environments
Yeah.
with this new lens. Pay attention to the hierarchies, the motives,
Yeah.
the unspoken rules that kind of govern everything. You might be surprised at what you discover.
You might be.
And remember,
Yeah.
every interaction is a chance for connection, for growth,
Yes.
for a deeper understanding of ourselves and others.
Exactly.
So go out there, be authentic, be curious,
Yes.
and keep exploring this amazing world of human connection.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Until next time, happy connecting.